The Yankees were as shocked as anyone when Juan Soto signed with the Mets. Yankees captain Aaron Judge on the move.
I wasn't too surprised by it. You know, you got a pretty nice deal over there, so I think you can't say no to that. But no, I'm happy for him. You know, he got a good deal. It's going to be great having him in town. We're going to be battling back and forth for quite a few years. So no, I'm definitely happy for him.
The NBA season resumes tonight following the All-Star break. One game on the schedule. The Hornets visit the Lakers. The game was rescheduled from January the 9th when it was called off due to the LA wildfire. LeBron James is questionable for the game tonight. He sat out the All-Star game for the first time in his 20-year career due to an ankle injury. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
If you've been waiting to hear Macy's winter clearance, now's the time. Get everything you've been eyeing all season long at prices that are worth the wait. How good? Think 40 to 70% off coats, sweaters, boots, and more. Plus, come in and get an extra 20% off all your clearance purchases. That's up to 75% off. So if you've been waiting to treat yourself to something cute and cozy, hurry into Macy's now, because you're not the only one ready to score amazing winter deals. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Giving you actionable insights and expert perspectives on daily sporting events.
That's the official line.
In plain English, we're in the business of creating winners.
We also call it the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline. With the two best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the SportsGrid Radio Network, SiriusXM Channel 159.
Best of your day now officially underway. It is Tuesday. It is February 25th. It's Donnie. It's Kevin. JP behind the wheels of steel. Topics galore here. The Combine, Kevin, officially opening here in Indianapolis. We're not going to have too many workouts, obviously, early in the week. I think it comes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at that point. But players making it known they're not working out, and rightfully so. But conversation always starts to, get between. I get very upset about this week because I can't even believe it's still a thing in the NFL. It's like, hey, you know what, man, get this guy in here and bench press. Only did 12, expected 14, drop him a couple picks here. Or, ooh, that 3-cone drill didn't look good. I know Ashton Genty is very good, but that 3-cone drill really has a pencil, in my ear right now. By the way, it is Combine Week. Do you like Combine Week? Because I know people love it. I can't stand it.
I think it's very odd that we still, I don't know, like Shedeur Sanders, right, announces he won't be throwing, but he'll be interviewing.
Yes.
And I saw some people who were low on Shedeur, right, be like, well, I don't blame him for not wanting to throw against his peers. It's like, that's not what's going on. Like, that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? But it's so odd because we do the pro days, but they all feel meaningless to me. I don't know. Like, it's just, again, the only thing I want out of a pro day, honestly, is to be flown around the country and let me and Donnie give real commentary.
Yes,
on
correct.
You know what? Bring Lisi too. Lisi too, and we will do
everybody to LSU quarterbacks. Yep.
Sending me. I don't know. He has been sending me tweets about how the Saints might draft Garrett Nussmeier in 2026. LSU's. Not Donnie. Not this draft. Not this draft. Next year. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Already lining them up. By the way, next year's CFT on Saturdays, is it going to be all Nussmeiered up all week? Like, what's going to happen during that? Who's the team? Who's the look-ahead team already? Because it's not Oklahoma State, no more for Lisi. It's got to be somebody else now.
Well, it's always Texas Tech. It's always LSU. Lisi's got a couple.
Probably got buried last night on Texas Tech.
Who was he? He was on Florida State and he was on Kansas. What did Kansas even do last night? I actually didn't see the result of that game.
They covered. They won by 9, I think. I think the spread was like mid 6 or 7, something like that. So they did. They definitely did pick up the cover at that point. But also, starting out here again on football, because you're starting to see some of the general managers and coaches speaking at the combine. And it's a lightning rod every time Joe Shane is now taking the mic and start talking about, just like he did today. Wouldn't mind taking a shot on a quarterback.
What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that from Joe Shane? What do you mean?
Sort of run on, like, who's the beat writer for the Giants that pops up on my timeline? So his quote was, I want to take like a swing. Like, I don't mind swings at quarterbacks, like even like veteran guys, like apparently alluding to Matthew Stafford. So of course I tweeted a meme in there that was a baseball player, Major League Baseball, striking out with his helmet falling off at the same time. Like, that's Joe Shane, like swinging for, let me get a quarterback in here. But now we hear the optics of Matthew Stafford saying, I want $50+ million a year. And that's why the Rams are doing their due diligence, because if they can find a place where it's like, hey, by the way, Giants are willing to give him $52.5 million, and the Giants are willing to give them their top 5 pick in the draft, go ahead and then they maybe make that move, as opposed to let's renegotiate.
But here's the big thing. And one of us is going to be very annoyed at the result of this Stafford thing, because either I'm not going to get the player movement that I enjoy, or a deal is going to be done that Donnie can't comprehend. And again, I say that not begrudgingly, because I like logically this doesn't make any sense. Like, Stafford is not going to command a first-round pick unless the team is drafting in the bottom 10. Like, it will be not the 3rd pick from the Giants, Donnie. They would get the 4th or 5th pick they probably have. Like, they're not getting the top 3 pick. If he goes to the Raiders, they're not getting 6th overall.
Like, you know how he like, if you took Matthew Stafford and in a different world, he goes, you know what, I just don't want to be here, and I'll renegotiate and I'll play at $10 million a year. The Giants might be like, you know what, first-round pick, top 5, you have it. I get a quarterback for 5 years probably that's going to play at a good level at $10 million a year. It's like a rookie contract here. But the fact that you're going to make that move and he's going to be like, you know what, the only reason I'm coming here is because I want money, and it's $50+ million, which then brings into effect like the Rams, who, again, I think are doing their due diligence by saying, we don't think you're worth 50. We know you want 50. If there's like a trade that's even like marginal where that team's going to pay you $50 million, we might just move you because we don't want to sign you or have you unhappy and sabotage our team, and we move on. The question always is who you move on to, because I know there's people out here, and I can't even believe it. Like, Matthew Stafford, at least when you watch him, like, operating in the pocket, you're saying to yourself, right, it's like, you know what? He still looks like he has the goods. Like, I don't care what the numbers were for Aaron Rodgers. When I saw him, like, in the pocket last, like, he just isn't the same Aaron Rodgers, and he's only getting older. So moving off of Stafford is interesting. But do you think somebody's going to give him $50 million a year that's not 100%. The Rams, Stafford?
100%, yeah.
Who would, though?
I think the Giants would. I think the Giants and Raiders both would. I do. I think the Giants and Raiders, specifically the Vegas Raiders, Donnie. Donnie, when they brought in Pete Carroll, I told you this. They are not. I am not disagreeing with you that the Raiders being bad is a bad idea or is a good idea.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's what they're trying to do. When I saw that Tom Brady was going to get Ben Johnson in the room, like, man, this is interesting. And then that struck out and I went, all right, never mind, just get Pete Carroll in here. And it's like, whoa, what's the MO? And I think the MO is we just want to win football games. I don't think Brady's interested in anything other than that. And they're going to bring Stafford, and they're going to tell themselves why not, right? The division put 3 teams in the playoffs. They're going to tell themselves that, listen, we get a quarterback that can compete. We're going to be right in the mix. Which, if I told you, Donnie, they get Stafford, don't you think that win total is going to be 8.5? Maybe higher?
For who?
The Raiders.
I don't know. They're so depleted everywhere. They really are. Like, again, and Matthew Stafford, we weren't talking about a 50-touchdown performance out of Stafford this year through 20 touchdowns. Who I do think obviously is a marginal upgrade from whoever they're going to get or think they're going to get in the draft, and or just playing on, Aiden O'Connell at this point. But sometimes I just look and I say, this is where the owners have to step in because the owners can't get fired. And no matter what they do, like the Raiders are a horrible franchise, top to bottom. They have been for decades. They print money like water. So sometimes they have to step in, Kevin, for me and say, you know what? Tom, we're not getting Stafford. And I'm sorry to my new head coach, Pete Carroll, who wants to win. That's not the design here. Our design is I want sustained winning, which means by the time you're out of here, Pete, in 3 years, I think we can have a 500 record or better for the next decade because of the foundation you put in with the quarterback and the structure that we're going to have. Like the Giants. The fact that Mara stands up there and is like, I should have fired my head coach and my GM and got a fresh slate and told those guys, build this thing in your mind and we'll revisit this in 3 to 4 years. But now you know what Joe Shane's doing? Like, well, if I want to stay in New York, I better win. I know this is never going to bring us a championship, but if I get Stafford and I go from 5 wins to 8, boy, I can sell that to the owner. I should be back again next year. And the owner is stupid enough to fall for that. That's why I look at Stafford. Now, the only team I would say like is in a little bit different situation would be, let's just say, the Steelers. Because I think the Steelers, even though I don't think it gives them a championship, they're in win-now mode. The Giants are not in win-now mode. The Raiders are not in win-now mode. That's just the way I play it out because people go into self-preservation modes, and rightfully so. That's the human instinct. Like, hey, how do I save my job? Get Stafford. We won't do a damn thing, but I'll win more games I did last year, and I can sell that.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying about the owner stepping in, but for Joe Shane, Donnie, Stafford probably is the right move, right? Like, ultimately,
no.
For Pete Carroll, Stafford is probably the right move.
Daniel Jones in Pittsburgh, not the right move here. But I got something that the NFL wants to ban. It ain't banning it, people. We'll be back. It's Donnie Kevin Radio Moneyline on Tuesday.
It's simple, really. Listen,
win.
Don't listen, lose.
I mean, duh.
This is the home of the winning edge. You're listening to the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. A lawsuit filed by 17 states challenging federal rules entitling workers to time off and other accommodations for abortions may proceed, according to a federal appeals court. The 8th Circuit Court's decision on Thursday reverses Eastern District of Arkansas U.S. District Judge D.P. Marshall Jr.'s dismissal of the case in June after he found that the states lacked standing to sue. The 17 states sued the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in April, challenging its rules on how to implement the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, a 2022 law requiring employers to make reasonable accommodations for pregnant or postpartum employees. Thieves have targeted freight trains running through the deserts of California and Arizona in a string of audacious heists, resulting in the theft of more than $2 million worth of new Nike sneakers. During a January 13th robbery in Perrin, Arizona, suspects cut an air brake hose on a BNSF freight train and made off with more than 1,900 pairs of unreleased Nikes worth more than $440,000. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a walk-up with central air and a skylight, and you found it. Now, every Friday night, you get to fall asleep to the sound of your downstairs neighbors' dance parties. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Sports gaming doesn't come with instructions.
But if it did,
you can be sure step one would be
listen to SportsGrid.
There's no reason to be overwhelmed.
Relax.
We're here 24/7 giving you the winning edge.
Listen
and dominate. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
It's your boy DRSN.
Welcome into today's Game Time Decisions.
No, a little bit early for GTD tonight. Getting fired up, ready to go, pulling a little rips there and having fun. But I tell you what's not funny right now, Kevin. It's one team in the NFL. It's like, man, we got a quarterback that just can't do things that other quarterbacks can do, like take a snap and fall forward for a yard. So we are so upset at this. And this team beat us twice this year, and we never want to see it again. It's the tush push in Philadelphia. Now, granted, people around the NFL have differentiating, feelings on should the tush push be banned or not. And I always land on this. Is it a interesting play, to say the least? Yes, it is. But everybody in the NFL, Kevin, has the ability to do the tush push. Every time 4th and 1 comes up on the goal line, you can do it as well. The fact that the angst comes from some of the teams that can't do it. And you know me, I like to take things to the extreme. Can you imagine? Let's just go back 10 years. Steph Curry is lighting the world on the fire from three. And one team goes, we can't shoot nearly as good as this guy. Can you take the three-pointer out of the game because what he's doing is bastardizing the three-point line, and we can't do that? And the NBA goes, you can pull up at the three-point line anytime you want, is make as many as you want. And you go, no. We can't do it as well because that's not the way we drafted. So it's unfair for them to draft a pure shooter from the three-point line. Like, that's how stupid it is. So before we get into like, yes, is it like the concept of the tush push for you, banned or not, is what?
Yeah, I think these teams are absolutely pathetic. I think the conversation around it is actually even more pathetic from those that break down the game. You know, the Green Bay Packers at minimum can give any reason they want, but if it's trying to gain a competitive edge over the Super Bowl champions, you maybe tip your cap. And again, you say this is embarrassing, you're a bunch of losers. But those that try and break this down and be like, well, listen, this isn't football. Listen to me, you buffoons. When Tom Brady used to quarterback sneak, was that a football play to you? When you watched Brady QB sneak, did you feel like you were like, oh, what a play? No, not once. And here's the other thing about a quarterback. Forget the tush push, Donnie. When a QB sneak is ran, does anybody ever expect it to fail?
Did not work. Correct.
Doesn't exist.
No.
Right? The New Heights podcast, the Kelsey brothers, the 92%ers, they call it, because it works 92% of the time when you QB sneak. The beauty of the tush push is not how good the Eagles are at it. It's that the Eagles are so good at it, every team everywhere thought we have to try and do that, as opposed to doing the always never fails tush QB sneak that they could have just kept doing. Yes. But again, this is foolish. Honestly, I'll say this. My NBA analogy is actually not even the three-point shot. It's the dunk.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
it's the first time someone dunked. And they were like, whoa,
yeah.
Can't dunk. It's like, yes, you can. Well, no, but that's not basketball. That's not basketball dunking. What are you talking about? It's not basketball. That doesn't make any sense. You sound, let's be honest, stupid. Because that's what people, again, I heard, well, what if the Eagles get so good at the tush push, they could pick up 4 yards? Shut up. Nobody does that. What are you doing? You know what? Tap your mic out. Come back next segment and break down the Chiefs. Break down the Ravens. Go to the NBA to figure something else out. You don't know what you're talking about. You're lost.
Now, I don't know how deep like this is going to go because I'm going to get real upset when I read you a next ruling because whenever the offseason begins, the competition committee meets and it drives me up a wall. Like the tush push itself, like it might take a diabolical team like the Packers. Like, in college football, it's like, hey, you know what? They can never enforce this. Team likes to go fast. I'm going to point to one of my players on the field. You drop immediately as if you got a cramp. They somehow can't enforce it, even though we all know they're lying. It's like, okay, that's a way to, slow down the process. When they talk about in the NFL, the reason why they mistake plays for the kickoff. Well, why can't we have the kickoff anymore? Well, these guys are running fast and colliding with their heads. And we've done surveys that show 32% more concussions happen on the kickoff than any other play in football. All right, how do we get rid of that? And I'm not saying you can fake concussions, but just injuries. Like every time the Eagles have a tush push, just somebody fake an injury on the field. Like I hurt my leg, I hurt my knee, I hurt my shoulder, I hurt my head, and just say, okay, well, that's 6 plays in the game where somebody got injured. Like sort of goes into the statistics. If you remember back in the day when they were trying to Kurt Schilling of the Diamondbacks at that time, where they were doing like the steroid testing and the players union didn't want it. Like, okay, well, we're going to test every team. And if you take it and we're under like 5%, we'll just do away with it. Like there's no need to test anymore. But Schilling was so upset about the 5%ers, like the Barry Bonds of the world. He told his team, like, let's all just not test because it goes as a negative, and just like completely circumvented the system. But he knew what he was doing at the time to try to get the test positives, the false test to be up there. So they start to, test even more. That's the only way, Kevin. It looks like that's the way it's going to be taken away. Now,
but
here's the part I want to do. Yeah, go ahead. Because I'm going to take a little next segment. Yeah.
Just the injury thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because some might say, no, look, it is dangerous. Look what happened to Chris Jones in the Super Bowl. Steve Spagnuolo spent 2 weeks putting in, hey, Chris Jones, lay on all fours and try and hope they can't move forward. And Cam Jurgens told the story on the Green Light podcast that he could not stop laughing, said, buddy, that's not going to work. You're about to go for a ride. And they sent that dude into outer space and broke his neck on the first tush push of the game. So I don't want to hear it. That was a terrible move by Spags, Chris Jones, and they got what was coming to him.
But like, because I was trying to understand the philosophy of that, because I was thinking, like, you know what, Chris Jones is an animal. Like,
he's so big.
Just like, is he on an angle where he just tries to take Jurgens out sideways and like you can't move? But the fact that it was like hut, hike, and we're just gonna like your force as a lineman is like going forward, like at somebody. Like, I'm just gonna like hold the tide here by like sideways, like I'm stopping a flood, like the flood water's coming down, and they just peeled you into the end zone midway through it, and then your head hurt right away.
Yes. And then he was looking for the team chiropractor the rest of the game. I'm telling you, if you see, Jurgens is like, buddy, that is not going to work. I can't believe like 2 weeks of install. Like Spags is like, I'm telling you, listen, we shut down Josh Allen and the Bills. Eagles, same thing. Chris Jones, do me a favor. Lay like a dog in front of the football. Coach, no, trust me, man. It'll work. And then they were practicing it all week with Carson Wentz in at quarterback because Mahomes isn't allowed to run QB sneaks because his ankle went his kneecap went sideways once.
Like the divider on like a turnpike expressway. Like he's like, be that in the middle. Like, yeah, man, you up and hit me with the goalpost with it. Touchdown, Eagles. By the way, I got anger coming up, which makes me stick around.
Ask any woman and she'll tell you all men are afraid of commitment.
Clearly, she's never met a SportsGrid listener. Checkmate. Check.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
Come here, Chad. I'm the greatest thing that ever lived.
1964, Muhammad Ali, despite being an 8-1 underdog, wins his first heavyweight boxing title when Sonny Liston fails to come out for the 7th round.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old.
In the rematch in 1965, Ali KO'd Liston in the first round. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Have you ever noticed small sparks of static electricity when you pull apart adhesive tape accidentally stuck together? New American Chemical Society research lighting up 300 LEDs by harvesting useful electric power from ripping apart regular store-bought plastic or aluminum tape. A device converting mechanical energy into electricity is referred to by physics as a triboelectric nanogenerator. Intended for wearable electronics, possibly in the future, triboelectric nanogenerators might even enable small, portable medical devices. Powered by ripping off a Band-Aid. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
Some people might be looking at the top of that landscape like Abdul Carter plus 175 over Travis Hunter. Have you seen the man wreck absolute game plans here from a defensive end a la Micah Parsons heading into the NFL? I love Abdul Carter, man. Whoever gets him, watch out.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Winning is no accident.
You've got to be smart about it. It takes a plan.
All centered around expert analysis and trusted information.
That's what you get right here.
The winning edge. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The UFL, Kevin. You want to talk a little UFL right here?
No, is it back?
Yeah. Well, I guess it is back for another season. And we could talk TGL. That thing's flaming out fast. Down like, massive in ratings, but that's not even the point right now. Me just playing on leagues and millionaires losing money always is my favorite Ponzi scheme. But the UFL, Kevin, which the NFL will pay attention to, just like the XFL, and say, you know what? Some of these rule changes are quite interesting, and maybe you try it out, and if it works, we can implement it. Case in point, the new kickoff rules in the NFL, which I don't mind. I really don't. kick in the end zone, get the ball at the 30, return it. Returns are a little bit more fun than they used to be. I don't mind it at all. I think we were pretty astonished, like opening night, like, wait a second. Everybody's just kicking the ball out of the back of the end zone. They could give a damn about the extra 5 yards. I thought it was interesting to watch. As the season progressed, I don't think anybody out there was like, because again, yes, we want the old kickoff back. I don't mind this one. I really did. But the rule that's going to get me like over the edge, and when I say like the benefit for the losing team, like I never understand the NBA. Bang, 3-point shot. We did it, man. We did it. We're up 1 with a half second to go, and the other team goes, watch this. Timeout. Now we get a free 3-point shot. Like, wait a second. That's not fair. All right. Well, the NBA does. It's one of the worst rules in sports. So as you start to flip over and say, okay, you see baseball. I love the rule changes that we made in baseball for me, right? You have the DH, you have the shift taken away, the bigger bases. You can't throw over to first a million times. And if you bring a reliever in, there's got to be at least for 3 batters. But that's both sides of the equation, all times of the game, right? It's like, okay, well, nobody really has an advantage. And we're not saying, hey, you know what, Kevin? You know what would be great for the Yankees? In the bottom of the 9th inning, they're down a run. Ah, damn it. Judge is struck out in the 8th inning. Timeout. Boone comes out, tells the umpire, Judge is going to bat right in. I go, okay, that's your one chance. You can put your best player in right now to try to win the baseball game. The other team's like, I don't understand. Like, this doesn't make sense. So as I pontificate into the NFL, this is the worst one I've seen. If the NFL even deems go near this, I will lose my mind. So once again, Kevin, you're down 10 points in a game. Drive the length of the field, minute and a half to go, you throw a touchdown pass. And the NFL goes, now, okay, well, you were down 10, you scored a touchdown. We're going to give you a play that's 5% chance of you getting the football back. And that's the way it should be. Because why? One team is winning. They should get the benefit of the doubt. You can maybe steal a game, but boy, those odds are low. The UFL now, Kevin is talking about, instead of the onside kick, 4th and 12. 4th and 12.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I like, because I know where the NFL was talking like 4th and maybe a little bit longer, like 15 or more, and I'm losing my mind. Like for me, if you want to bastardize the game like this, 4th and 40, and you cannot get an automatic first down due to defensive penalty. You want that? I'll play it out. Basically a Hail Mary that if you get it, you keep the football. Kevin, help me. I mean, please. I will lose my mind because I know the NFL, oh, hey, man, these fans are young and stupid, and sometimes at the end of the game, they need excitement. I will lose my mind at this.
Yeah, I don't think anybody needs excitement. If a game is over, a game is over.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Like, when you win, you win. Not every game is close. That's okay. And 4th and 12, I legitimately expect to be picked up. 4th and 15, like there just will be a penalty. And to be honest with you, like 4th and 30, people go, this is dumb. Because every time a 4th and 30 gets picked up, it'll be because of a penalty. And when it doesn't get picked up, we'll be like, that was such a waste of time. Why did we just do that? Why did we just watch that? If you are, as the NFL, upset that your onside kicks aren't suspenseful, well, then stop putting in rules that made it already impossible play harder.
Correct.
Like, it's funny as I
we never had like before the advancement of, hey, look, we're trying to get player safety. Like the onside kick was not ultra productive, but you always felt like if anybody even goes back to the 90s or early 2000s when you're playing high school or college football, it was a very suspenseful play for even the guys trying to catch the football like myself. Like this is actually tougher than it is. You got guys who are designed for the first 4 guys to blow up your front line like it's a war at this point. Like you guys are just going to break up that wall. The second 3 guys go in there like a missile at the guy trying to catch the football, and the last 2 guys try to recover the scraps, which hopefully is a fumble at that point. Like, I never had an issue with that. Like, at the end of the game, like, hey, onside kick's coming up. You were on the edge of your seat, whether or not you had to cover a spread or win the football game or try to come back and win it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, just go back to so let's say an onside kick is currently 4%. Go back to the rules that allowed it to be like 9%. That's fine.
Yes.
There's no reason for Mahomes to be on the field for a 4th and 20. It is ridiculous. That is so ridiculous.
They're going to look at the 4th and 12. Like, man, that's excitement. And a lot of you boneheads out there will be like, you know what? I agree at that point. Yeah, no longer can you bet sides in the NFL because of that. What's coming forward? Oh, my goodness. Talk about that and much more coming up next right here on Moneyline.
As a SportsGrid listener, don't use the word loser around your sports gaming friends.
It always triggers the folks who don't listen to us.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Men's top 25 hoops last night. Number 5, Houston beat Arizona State 80-65. Number 19, Marquette 80-56 winners at home over Seton Hall. Number 2, Florida beat Oklahoma 85-63. Number 21, Mississippi State 70-54 winners over number 7, Texas A&M. Number 8, Iowa State 79-65 over Colorado. TCU upset number 9, Texas Tech 69-66. Number 11, Wisconsin scored a 95-74 win over Illinois. Number 14, Michigan State nipped number 13 Purdue 75-66. BYU blew out number 23 Kansas 91-57. Women's top 25 last night. Number 24 Oklahoma State beat Utah 68-64. The NBA regular season resumes tonight. The Lakers are home against the Charlotte Hornets. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
If you've been waiting to hear Macy's winter clearance, now's the time. Get everything you've been eyeing all season long at prices that are worth the wait. How good? Think 40 to 70% off coats, sweaters, boots, and more. Plus, come in and get an extra 20% off all your clearance purchases. That's up to 75% off. So if you've been waiting to treat yourself to something cute and cozy, hurry into Macy's now, because you're not the only one ready to score amazing winter deals. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Things are just better when you switch to Cricket. The sun shines a little brighter. Happy music starts randomly playing. Best of all, you can get iPhone 13 for just $29.99. With the ultra-bright Super Retina display and up to 19 hours of video playback, all on Cricket's super-fast 5G network. See? Isn't that better? Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new account and port in on $60 plan. First service charge taxed with sale. $25 activation fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See store for details.
Don't be that guy.
You know the kind.
They're superstitious, carry good luck charms, and have extravagant rituals to win. There's an easier way.
Listen to us. It beats carrying 4-leaf clovers everywhere.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Right back at it here. Having some fun on a Tuesday. Nice little college basketball card tonight. This little card last night. You know, Kevin's laughing over there. What do you got?
Come on. Tweet. It was just a tweet. I'll send it to you, but I'm not going to read it. But it made me laugh.
Is it from anybody we know?
No, actually. No, it's like one of those just like mean things. Did you see the Prairie View A&M 3-point stuff? Did you see this?
No.
Like their PA announcer was like 4, 3. You got to watch it during the break. You'll love it because you'll be able to pull the audio up. You can play it for the people. Yeah. No, like Donna, like that's what they were doing in like an empty gym when 4-win Prairie View A&M was banging threes out against Mississippi.
By the way, if you do follow on Twitter at times, because again, Saturday I had a clean handicap of them. Also Mississippi Valley State last night, who was with the road team against Prairie View. Two really bad basketball teams, 17.5, absolute gift of the gods. Like I saw the Kevin tweet come up to my son and say, you know what? This is like the Super Bowl for Mississippi Valley State, a team they actually might be able to play with. 64-56, absolutely perfect scenario from a weekend game where they scored like 36 points. I mean, this team is a lot of fun, but their Twitter account also, Kevin, if you go over it, like a couple of it, like they get waxed on the daily, and it'll be like Mississippi Valley State, like 48, and the other team doesn't have a score. It just says, played a good game, like good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they mess around, they have fun, they understand it.
But I'm not positive. I think that Twitter account might not be affiliated with the actual program because I don't think the program, Donnie, actually tweets because of how bad things are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I feel. Let me see.
It looked official, though, when I went to it the other day. Just wanted to check out like what they had going on at that point.
It says in quotes, it says unofficial, though. But it's, I don't know, it's verified. Maybe it is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because they're not really poking fun. They're just like, hey, man, we're not bad, but let's have some fun on the season, like with a couple of the stuff they send out. But they are every bit as bad as you would think. Like, it's hard. Like,
they don't even make
worst offense. Yeah, that would have the worst offense and defense in the country on the same team. It's like, well, there's only 6 teams in the country. Like, no, like 360 or whatever they are. It's unbelievable.
Wait, keep going. Let me just make sure I can play this. I'm going to mute quickly.
All right, Kev's checking it out right now. We'll play a little music for him. Hold on, let's see. Let's see when he gets back. Kev's on the ticker. He's going.
Hey!
There you go.
All right, ready?
There you go.
This is how it sounded when someone made it 3 in that game last night.
Go ahead. It's just echoing off the chairs at that point. Like, nobody
in an
is there.
empty gym.
The players going like this, like while they're knocking it down.
Just bang, bang, bang.
Yep.
Hitting the guitar. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Killing it out there in the streets, killing it out there. But by the way, yesterday, you did have some good basketball in college basketball. I went with the public yesterday because I thought it was the right move. Houston 69, Texas Tech 61. Most of the day yesterday, -1.5. That ballooned all the way up to -4 by game time. Didn't matter. Houston won. And I was handicapping that game early on and, checking the injury reports. I'd noticed that, again, Texas Tech's best three-point shooter was not going to play in this game. And that's the way I had Texas Tech beating Houston. So I said, all right, that kid's not going to play. I think Houston's the right side. And it won. Let me ask you this question, too, because Houston is awesome. But do we get upset or worried, Houston heading into conference basketball play? It used to be like, well, come on, man. Playing the American. Like, show up. They're actually going to play real No. They play real competition this year. They win a lot of close games, but if you're looking for a tempo, it's not them, which always leaves up in the air, Kevin, right? Well, if you limit the possessions, that gives the other team a chance to stay around. Because if you are, let's just say, the number 1 team in the country, and your offensive efficiency is tremendous, like it's Houston, but you go fast, like, wait a second. They're going to play 80 possessions a game when Houston would play at, let's just say, 60, which leaves a lot in between. Are you worried at all about Houston? Because it's really an unfair question. It's like, well, wait a second. I mean, anybody can get knocked off against 6 good teams or 7 good teams in 7 games in the tournament. We get that. But their style of play, Virginia-esque, not necessarily, but you leave yourself open there.
It has similarities, but they are, I don't know, they're stronger, they're more physical, they're longer. They just, to me, Donnie, they are not a team that walks onto the court with a 16 seed and it's even a game. They're up 20 at the 5 at the break of these games, and
like 32-10 at the break.
And here's what you just kind of hit on, and it's actually, no matter how much credit you give them, you can't give them enough credit because they spent those years in the American, and it was pretty easy to be like, see, not battle tested. Like, Donnie, they've been in the Big 12 for 2 years, and they've won the Big 12 twice. Yeah. That's ridiculous. That shouldn't even be possible. Like, they have 1 loss in the Big 12. The Big 12 is it's not the SEC.
Yeah,
but it's the second best conference. Would you say, Donnie, in the country?
Oh yes, I've. And also, if you're going for the past decade, they've been the best basketball conference. But this year, the SEC gets the nod, but they're right there still. The depth is still there.
They have 1 loss.
Yes,
and again, like I know they've pulled out some crazy ones.
It was OT.
By 1 in overtime. They have 4 losses on the year. 3 of them are in overtime, and the other one was the second game of the season.
The best team of the year. The best team. Yep.
But so to me, I look at Houston, and it's very odd how this worked. It was not a team I wanted to bet coming into the year, but I've just continued to add free bets. I'm now more invested in them than my actual preseason pick of Duke because the Duke numbers moved. Like you got a $10 free bet, you put it on Duke at plus 450. You go, all right, I mean that's not really moving things around a lot, right? Donnie, you're still saying. I mean, let me see if Houston move it. They're going to get on the 1 line. Is my thing. They are. Here's the problem, though. You understand this stuff a little bit better than me. One of the things that's odd is it feels like all the 1 seeds, Donnie, are going to be from a comparable area, if that makes any sense. Like we have no West Coast teams, not even any real East Coast teams fighting for.
I'm worried about Gonzaga.
Yeah.
UCLA's, Oregon's.
What is it, Donnie? It goes South, Midwest, East, West. Is that how that goes? The regions?
Yeah.
So they'll put what? Auburn in the South?
Yes. If they're the top. Put Duke in the Northeast, probably.
Well, that's what, would Duke go East because they have such a following here, or would Duke go to the Midwest?
No,
is that where they're going to put
Yeah, dude, like Barclays Center, the Rock in Newark. Like, I don't know where the East, Boston, like they would be in that bracket. Worst case, that's where they would stay.
And then like if you're Florida, Donna, you end up on the West. Like that's where you're going to be.
Yeah,
that's a little odd. San Antonio this year,
far away from your home, but you're hoping for that easier stretch. But I was like, because the SEC, like Joe Lenardi, we were talking about it, updated his bracketology today.
Yeah,
like teams that can be on the one line and who they're expecting, like ins and outs at this point. Like I looked at Alabama and their schedule, like their final, and they've already played some of them. Their final 7 games on their slate, Kevin. Number 1 Auburn, number 15 Missouri, number 17 Kentucky. Tonight, number 24 Mississippi State, Tennessee number 5, Florida number 3, Auburn number 1. Those are the remaining 3 games after the Mississippi State game. So they played basically the gauntlet of all gauntlets because they were trying to ask, well, who's going to get that 1 seed? Well, how the hell could it be Alabama? Like if Alabama goes 2-2, it's like that is a miracle. So there's no way I don't think they can get to that 1 line where maybe Florida can stay. But the reason I was like 13 out of 16 teams expected to make it out of the SEC. I don't know if I've ever seen something like that. You expect the ACC, like, hey, we got 14 teams in the league and 7 make, like, wow, that's incredible. 13 out of 16? Unbelievable.
And people will say, how could you possibly do that? The SEC slaughtered everyone they played out of conference. They did the SEC ACC challenge, and the only wins, I think, were Kentucky beating Auburn at home and Duke beating Auburn at home and Clemson beating Kentucky at home. I think it was like 13-2 or something ridiculous.
March 2nd, this weekend, people. March 2nd. It's going. We'll be right back to Moneyline right here on the SportsGrid Network.
You're listening to your source of sports gaming strategies and information.
We call it the winning edge.
It helps make the odds even. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The NBA season resumes tonight following the All-Star break. 1 game on the schedule. The Hornets visit the Lakers. The game was rescheduled from January the 9th when it was called off due to the LA wildfires. The Hornets have lost 3 in a row in 9 of their last 10. The Lakers, meanwhile, have wins in 8 of 10. LeBron James is questionable for the game tonight. He sat out the All-Star game for the first time in his 20-year career due to an ankle injury. Men's top 25 hoops last night. Number 5, Houston beat Arizona State 80-65. Number 19, Marquette 80-56 winners at home over Seton Hall. Number 2, Florida beat Oklahoma 85-63. Number 21, Mississippi State 70-54 winners over number 7, Texas A&M. Number 8, Iowa State 79-65 over Colorado. TCU upset number 9, Texas Tech 69-66. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with My Lowe's Rewards. Earn points towards My Lowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce.
It's Spruce, the new hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets. When used as directed, spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Weeds die by the next day. Find Spruce wherever weed killers are sold.
Face it. People lie.
Scoreboards don't.
When the game is over, do you want to face that moment prepared or just rely on luck?
You've come to the right place.
Giving you strategies and information is what we do. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Luka Doncic tonight exacting revenge against the Mavericks. Finally played a good game his last time out. Kevin said he was thinking he was looking a little svelte out there on the season so far.
He is, though.
Got there in shape. We have a side-by-side. We're looking at side-by-side. Or was it the Harden ones? Like Harden looked like he was about to have a baby, and then the next day lost all the weight.
What a beast. The best part is like Harden is now just like quietly hoops in LA, like
yeah.
doing well. Nobody
Yeah,
has any
sure.
beef with Harden.
Yep.
He's living a good life out
Ben
there, man.
Simmons chilling. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ben Simmons is he must be the happiest he's ever been, or at least in a long time.
What's his? He's not no longer on the Sixers like big contract. Look, is somebody still paying? Like, did he re-up?
No, because it was a buyout. So whatever he's being paid by the Clippers is
Still stemming
he'll
from
be
that
a free
Sixers
agent.
Because that was where he got the big money from the Sixers. Did somebody else give him
Yeah.
money after the Sixers?
No, I don't think so. But my point is, he got bought out. So I think he's like a free agent now, and he got he signed with the Clippers. Like he didn't get traded to the Clippers. You see what I'm saying? So he got.
Let me see.
He probably signed like a minimum deal. And he'll just play there for the rest of the season.
Just want to see where he.
He's always wanted to get to LA.
Yeah, he must be on the because the Clippers are paying him $1 million.
Yeah,
the Nets are on the hook this year for $39 million. So I'm assuming that was from his. Oh, okay,
Sixer
Here we go. No, actually, I don't. Let's see. So he came.
No way. The Nets never gave him $40 million.
That's
he was
what I'm
never
saying.
good for the Nets.
So his contract extension looks like it kicked in like right when he went to his last year of the Sixers. It was $37 million. Then 38, 37. Yeah, so this is the final year of the Sixers deal that he has. Yeah, so he's probably just like, you know what, I'm getting paid and I'll go to a good spot. They're going to pay me a veteran minimum and away you do it. But I can't wait. Like that, he's going to get paid again next year. Somebody's going to be like, you know what, this guy can play a little bit, 15, 20 million a year.
Maybe, but I think he's also, this from even when he was like playing well. Like people were like, he wants to be in LA. Like he's just one of those guys kind of thing. Yeah. So I think again, it might be like Harden-esque, Kawhi-esque. Like like the Clippers have this like it's not a retirement home, but it's almost just like look, man, you just come here. Well, yeah, we'll play basketball. No more spotlight. Like if we win, great. Like nobody thought we'd win, but if we lose, no one cares. We'll pay you good money. Like we got a new arena. Like that's what the Clippers are this year. Nobody. It's all just like wow, cool. Like Kawhi Donnie still never plays, and nobody cares. Nobody
Shout out last night again, got beat.
Yeah,
no Norm Powell got beat.
Doesn't matter. Harden's having the time of his life.
I want to ask you a question on this one. Never before I've been more right. We talked about on the show yesterday on the early line and money line. How the Sixers were favored last night against the Chicago Bulls. Like some things I just look at and say, the computers are wrong and nobody wants to make adjustments to it. Sixers opened up as a 3.5-point favorite yesterday. Game time closing, -5.5. Sixers down 50 in the fourth quarter. Maxey played, George played. The only guy in the lineup was Joel Embiid, which he's been out of the lineup quite a bit. They were down 50 at home to a horrendous basketball team.
I didn't understand that. Like, so I put down the Sixers as a watch game. It was 4.5, and I thought that was we think everyone's going to play number. And I was like, I'll be interested, like, if they get some absences, like dream scenario, Maxey by himself, late, -14 on a money line play. I was like, at the time, I went up to 6.5. I was like, what's happening? And it really is kind of, where it's like, oh yeah, they're the sharp side now. It's like, I'm not following that. That was no good. I'll tell you, the Hornets.
Yeah,
I don't know if any team has ever, they beat the Lakers, and they sent out a tweet, something special about this team, and they were celebrating in the locker room like they had just clinched the postseason. Donnie, they turned off after that. They've lost their last 2 games by nearly a combined 100 points.
Like we don't want.
I mean,
like
this
Sixers
is insane.
We got to stay as low as we can on the totem pole. They lost the fourth quarter yesterday, 42-16.
Yeah,
they got beat 130-88. That's how bad they got dropped on. I'll tell you the surprise yesterday was that T-Wolves Thunder game. You're talking about one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, one of the best home teams in the NBA, and they lose 41-19 in the fourth quarter just to get to OT and then lose to the Timberwolves yesterday, which is incredible. One of those great back-to-backs between the same 2 teams in 2 different cities. We always love how that works out. SGA 39-10-8. Looks like he's wrapping up the MVP conversation. But that one, to me, I like the over. That was the way I went before the game. But I didn't think the Thunder were going to lose that game by any way, stretch, or form.
I was on Minnesota, and I was like, if Ant plays well, they can win it outright. And one of those rare situations where you end up correct, but also dead wrong. Like they went on a run so good with the bench unit. Ant didn't check in until like 2 minutes left in overtime. He didn't play. He wasn't playing. It was incredible to watch. I was just trying to get a cover on a 12.5 number. I didn't actually think that was how that was going to go. You see what I just sent you? I see you smiling.
Yeah,
pretty
was that
good.
You that sent it to me.
Yeah,
you sent that because I was freaking.
I
Lisi
sent it.
Okay,
I sent it because that is. But again, like so, looks like he's over at Bovada now, football. Getting action now. I mean,
football is that the account?
Yeah.
I'm reading like some of the comments under here. Like this guy Chinito says Justin Fields could be dynamic fit for the Rams offense. Like, is that Lisi's burner? Did we find that Chinito, Joe Lisi? Be a terrible move, by the way. And if anybody isn't paying attention here, Kevin sent me ML Football on Twitter. The Rams have the second best odds to sign quarterback Justin Fields if he leaves Pittsburgh per Bovada official. Fields is 25 years old. Fields is a major dual threat and could be dynamic in Los Angeles. No, he can't. Why would he be dynamic at? He's never been dynamic in any situation he's ever been in.
He had a 3-week window. He had a 3-week window where he was awesome for the Bears, and like that's it pretty much. But I don't really is Fields going to be it's very young for this, but is he just going to be the guy that is he a backup quarterback or like every year when he gets signed, like you think he starts? Like, it's very odd.
Yeah. But here's the funny part about it too, is you look and it's like, please happen because we will never have a better time next year on Pro Football Today where Joe bets every single Rams game and every single over. We'll be right back. It's Money Line. One more segment to go on a Tuesday afternoon.
Sports talk is everywhere, but here at SportsGrid, we give you something more. The winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The new SportsGrid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the SportsGrid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime, on the go, wherever you are. Download the SportsGrid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
For anyone who's worried about back taxes, has not filed tax returns, and doesn't know what to do next, stop and listen. Not filing your taxes can have severe consequences, especially in this political climate. Now that COVID is over, the IRS is getting aggressive, massively increasing enforcement and collection efforts. With politicians making all sorts of promises, especially when it comes to taxes, hiding and not dealing with your taxes will cause you harsh legal and financial ramifications. But right now, the IRS offers forgiveness and writes off a massive amount of tax debt. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. Don't hide or bury your head in the sand. Take advantage of our free service. Call now to learn more. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. That's 800-816-4492.
Money Line.
I now have realized it's one of two teams, but it's probably the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Gotta be the Steelers. Stafford is a quarterback that's supposed to put you over the top. You look at the Giants, like they're over the top of like the dumpsters where they're going like right into the trash can, like if they get him. But like the Steelers legitimately, like they are just missing like a functional quarterback to push the football downfield.
Catch Money Line with Donnie Rightside and Kevin Walsh. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. We can't make it any simpler, Sporto. All you got to do is listen to SportsGrid. That's listen. Often. Pay attention. Soon you too will have the winning edge. And your friends and family will regard you with quiet awe. See? Simple. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Final segment. Look how quick that hour goes. The best hour of your day always goes fast here. Duke, Miami tonight, Kevin. I mean, how's that feel? How's that tickle the fancy tonight? Florida, Georgia. A little get money segment. There you go. A little music for you.
What's the Cooper Flag points prop? Because he didn't have a huge game at the Garden, and we know Miami can't. That's actually a good question for you, DRS, just in your Do you remember a team at the power level like Miami having a defense that lowly rated? Yeah, is their defense still like outside of the top 300?
Let's go. Yeah, the fall off for Miami, pretty wild this year. Let's see. Let me go to Miami's true stats on the year. 335.
Donnie.
And 18th out of 18 in the ACC. What are we looking at? What do we need to look at?
335 overall from an ACC defense? I mean, does that even sound right?
Man, let me just see this right now. Let me see this. So you got Duke's out. Now, see, because the first thing I go to is like style. Like, forget about like how many shots Duke makes at the 3-point line or how they can defend it. Like, I like styles that make fights, right? If you have a team second in the ACC in Duke that likes to shoot the 3-point shot with volume, 13th out of 18 at letting you shoot it, that's Miami. Then you dip into it and go like, well, some teams shoot a lot of threes, Kevin, shoot 28% from the floor. Duke, best in the ACC, close to 40%. You know who also gives up 40% from 3-point range as a team on defense? It's Miami. Like, when you just look at that and say it is going to be absolute bombs away, but also, like, you want to strip it over to Duke's defense, like a team total under Miami even makes sense. Like, Miami doesn't like to use the 3-point line to their advantage. 17th out of 18th at actually making the 3-point shot. And then you say, okay, well, let's mess around with Duke because they're a bad 3-point shooting team. So it correlates to they score more points inside the arc because they can't make any 3-point shots. So they're actually second in conference play at 55% of the total points coming from inside the arc. But then Duke is 12th out of 18 at like defending inside the arc, which is good. Like if it was number one, that's the worst team. Well, so theoretically, the points are going to be like Miami is 16th in the conference at getting to the free throw line. Duke is 4th at fouling, which means they don't foul that much. Miami doesn't rebound at all, 15th out of 18th on offense. Duke's defense, second in conference play at rebounding. It's one of those games that you look at and say, which way would you want to go? Duke's offense, where you get nervous late in the game because they have 5 bench warmers in with 6 minutes to go and you still need 12 points? Or is it like, no matter what, Miami is not going to score against Duke?
Yeah, I think taking all your breakdown there and then kind of where my head was at, Cooper Flag for 2 made threes.
Yes.
You can find a plus price out there.
How about Khan?
How
about Khan dropping triples?
Khan,
He doesn't actually shoot as many as he did to start the season, though. He's 1 for 2 last game, 3 for 6 the week before, 1 for 3, 0 for 3.
Plus 124 to make 3. Yeah, but Donnie, did you see what he did against Miami kind of to prove your breakdown? Did you see what he did against Miami earlier this year?
How much they do? They scored 89 to 54. You might have a carbon copy. Yeah, went what? 6 of 8 from 3. It's
6
all
of 8
there.
from 3. 25 points.
Knocking it down.
So that's
what got Zion James. What's he doing these days? Zion 2 for 5 last game for 3. How do you feel? And also coming off of that Illinois game, it's an absolute hammer job. So because I don't want to say Duke falls asleep because you can't fall asleep against a horrible defense. Like guys light up like this is going to be a fun game. Like we're in Miami, we're going to put a show on. But at the same time, the defense usually always travels. So
first half over, maybe.
Long either way, but
first half total 71.5, maybe. Duke gets out there. Maybe they score.
They have a Duke first half team total.
Yeah, 42.5. Shoo.
42. That's crazy. Man. You watch games. It's like, hey, you know what? You have a team total of like 78. It's like they got 36 in the first half. That was a really good half. 40s.
Yeah.
You have like 45 on the board, which again, you could see 45 to like 19 as Duke's like, all right, let's take the second half off. Which then when you see those, it's like, why not just take the first half? Because the second half is now just up in smoke.
86.5, 87.5 for the full game team total. I mean, it's no joke, man.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
Again, you're probably not even going to get that like push at that point. You know what I mean? That's what makes it tough because Miami's not going to be like 4 points behind. You don't think like, hey, you know what? That last 2 minutes, we're scoring at least 10 points in the front 2 minutes.
It's a great point, but you're coming off of this Illinois game where the game was over for the whole game and they scored 110.
Correct.
I mean, they were having the time of their lives out there.
I got to tell you, I thought I was watching like a video game remake of whoever the guy off the bench point guard that hit the step back triple.
Yeah.
When I first saw it at the corner of my eye, I was like, did somebody like just AI image this game and just put a funny guy on the court? Like, how's that guy dropping triples in a major game?
Yeah. That might be his last career make. It's a 3 at the Garden. If I were him, I would never shoot again at the college level.
Goodness. That'll do it. Look at that. Tuesday afternoon, SportsGrid Network coming up next for JP behind the wheels of steel, Donnie right side, and Kevin Walsh. Thanks for tuning in to the best hour of your day.
emotions. Another day above ground. Might as well make the most of it. Get the winning edge. Sports gaming strategy.
At number 9, Texas Tech 69-66. Number 11, Wisconsin scored a 95-74 win over Illinois. Number 14, Michigan State nipped number 13 Purdue 75-66. BYU blew out number 23 Kansas 91-57. Women's top 25 last night. Number 24 Oklahoma State beat Utah 68-64. The NBA regular season resumes tonight. The Lakers are home against the Charlotte Hornets. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
If you've been waiting to hear Macy's winter clearance, now's the time. Get everything you've been eyeing all season long at prices that are worth the wait. How good? Think 40 to 70% off coats, sweaters, boots, and more. Plus, come in and get an extra 20% off all your clearance purchases. That's up to 75% off. So if you've been waiting to treat yourself to something cute and cozy, hurry into Macy's now, because you're not the only one ready to score amazing winter deals. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Things are just better when you switch to Cricket. The sun shines a little brighter. Happy music starts randomly playing. Best of all, you can get iPhone 13 for just $29.99. With the ultra-bright Super Retina display and up to 19 hours of video playback, all on Cricket's super-fast 5G network. See? Isn't that better? Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new account and port in on $60 plan. For service charge, tax to with sale. $25 activation fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. See store for details.
How many Sports Grid listeners does it take to change a light bulb? It takes 2. 1 to change the light bulb, and 1 to see if our mobile app can provide the same amount of light. Get the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. It is FFC. It is Combine Week in Indianapolis. It's one thing to have all the best prospects on the field, meeting with clubs around the NFL, going through their interviews and the press conferences. It's another thing, Joe, during this week in Indianapolis, to have all of the NFL in one place. Plenty of news, notes, and headlines to dive through over the next hour here on Football Full Circle on FFC. Up until 1 p.m. Eastern Time, all a part of Sports Grid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. That's the mastermind of the pigskin, Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Lisi guy again. Combine Week, not just about guys running fast or lifting heavy weights. It's about having everybody under one roof. That could be as it pertains to getting a feel for these prospects, evaluating them, and updating your draft boards. But it's also a time for just all of the NFL tastemakers to be in one spot. Off-season headlines that we'll break down today on Football Full Circle.
Yeah, and we talk about storylines that could come out of the combine to potentially affect certain teams or certain players. You know, the media loves this type of situation where a player potentially can rise or fall, or if there's any type of uncertainty. We saw it last year with Marvin Harrison Jr., opting not to do the interviews. I mean, there's going to be something that comes out of this draft combine outside of the metrics and the intangibles on the football field that can maybe make or break this NFL draft coming up, and maybe it gives some of us an opportunity to pick off some value. We'll see how it plays out. I don't know if the quarterbacks will give us that, but maybe the running backs are potentially on the defensive side of the ball when you see stars that are out there.
Yeah, still the odds right now, just the number 1 overall pick. It remains Cam Ward at -130, but it was -140 yesterday. A little bit of movement for the guy with the second best price. That would be Abdul Carter at a +150 number. But we did learn yesterday, Joe, as we have for many of these talented prospects, that Abdul Carter is not going to go through the on-field workouts in Indy this week. He will meet with teams. He will interview with teams. He is not going to be participating in those workouts. We have received some declaration on quarterbacks who will throw at the Combine in Indianapolis and those who will not. Yesterday we discussed Shedeur Sanders not going through the on-field workouts in Indy. Still up in the air whether Cam Ward will throw during Combine Week, but some quarterbacks who will. Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Riley Leonard. All very familiar names around the college football landscape. And really, Joe, for the most part, 4 QBs trying to amplify the narrative about them in a positive way. Milroe and Leonard, more so your athletes, your battering rams, your bruisers, in terms of what they can do utilizing their legs, have to show they can be a pure passer at the highest level. And for Jackson Dart and Quinn Ewers, 2 highly touted guys throughout their college careers trying to prove they have what it takes at the next level as well.
Yeah, and for both of those players, Dart and Ewers, they had, the end of the regular season for both, and even the playoffs wasn't that great for Quinn Ewers, right? Had his team in a position to potentially tie that game. The interception and the pick six, strip sack, fumble return really cost the Texas Longhorns the cover and an opportunity to challenge Ohio State for a national championship. And Jackson Dart, the same thing. Even though his last game in the bowl game, he stepped up. You look at a couple of games down the stretch, especially against Florida with a college football playoff appearance on the line. Yeah. Jackson Dart didn't step up. So this gives both of these players an opportunity to showcase the physical arm strength. Do they have the intangibles? Do they have and can handle the interview process? That's what we'll see play out. And Milroe, too, I think is the one intriguing aspect. Forget Riley Leonard for a second. Milroe, again, a poor performance against Michigan. We didn't see him step up against, elite competition consistently throughout the regular season this year. And he is the one player that can help his draft status. The way we saw Joe Milton last year just light it up, Jalen Milroe could be that guy.
Yeah, Joe Milton's still a late day 3 draft pick. Jalen Milroe has probably a higher expectation than that. But no doubt, Joe, some of these quarterbacks utilizing the combine to show everybody in one place with the best prospects taking the leap to the next level. I can throw, I can deliver in the way you would expect out of a quarterback in the National Football League. Those workouts for the QBs will happen over the weekend. Again, not stunning to see a quarterback or a prospect say, I'm good, I'm not working out, I'm not going to participate in the on-field drills. They will during pro days as well. I do wonder, Joe, with some early kind of scuttlebutt conversation around Jackson Dart, could he be the QB on the rise? There is always one throughout every NFL draft process. It feels pretty solidified that right now we see it as a top tier of 2 QBs in this 2025 class. Maybe only 2 guys in the opening round in Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Is there going to be a third QB taken in the opening round? Joe, I think that's the question right now around the NFL draft and specifically this 2025 quarterback class.
Yeah, and Jackson Dart's appealing because he played in Lane Kiffin's offense. He lit it up at times in the SEC against better competition. So at the end of the day, it wouldn't shock me if Jackson Dart is in the area of maybe 25 to 32. I don't think he's going to fly up draft boards. Maybe he will, but I just don't see him worthy of anywhere from 10 to 15 in that area. But again, making the cut in the bottom half potentially, I don't think is out of the realm of possibility. But again, you keep talking about team needs and how quarterback hungry teams are to get a guy that's young, has upside, can throw a nice ball. And that's the one thing I think when you look at Jackson Dart, plays with touch, right? Does have an above average arm, has stepped up at times, at times also forces balls into coverage. Yeah. But that could be workable. Right. So, and the fact that he potentially can run a 4.4, 4.5 40 in the 40-yard dash, that really sets off now with the RPO game, some GMs or some scouts to say Jackson Dart is worthy of a top 25 selection. All right. Jackson Dart, worthy of a top 25 selection. His ability to play in Lane Kiffin's offense, his ability to step up, his ability to potentially lead an offense and really help solidify maybe a top ranking is why I think, Jackson Dart could be on the move. When you look at some other players like Jalen Milroe, you look at some others as well like Riley Leonard, I think they're more raw type of quarterbacks. I think both of those quarterbacks bring a better rushing attack than the passing attack to an NFL type of scheme or system, but that doesn't matter. That when you talk about the athletic ability and you talk about quarterbacks that can step up on the next level, this is what Riley Leonard and Jalen Milroe bring. Look at Taysom Hill and BYU a couple of years ago. That's what it's all about. You know, the ability to be utilized in different types of sets, the ability to utilize your legs is what makes Jalen Milroe and even Riley Leonard maybe late second or third round selections. We'll see how it plays out in the NFL draft. We'll have 4 days of analysis, 4 days of seeing how these players perform in terms of the 40, performing in terms of their throwing, and if they can make every throw. I think it's clear when you talk about the top quarterbacks in the draft, it's only Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders and everyone else. Those two quarterbacks have stepped up in big games. They've stepped up with a lack of elite competition and elite talent on the perimeter in terms of the wide receivers, offensive lines. Both of those quarterbacks, I believe, has solidified themselves as number one and number two overall coming in April. We'll come back. We'll talk a little more, maybe NFL Combine. We'll also talk about some storylines around the NFL right here on Football Full Circle. Keep it where it is.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. And we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin. He just gives that vibe. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. A lawsuit filed by 17 states challenging federal rules entitling workers to time off and other accommodations for abortions may proceed, according to a federal appeals court. The 8th Circuit Court's decision on Thursday reverses Eastern District of Arkansas U.S. District Judge D.P. Marshall Jr.'s dismissal of the case in June after he found that the states lacked standing to sue. The 17 states sued the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in April, challenging its rules on how to implement the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, a 2022 law requiring employers to make reasonable accommodations for pregnant or postpartum employees. Thieves have targeted freight trains running through the deserts of California and Arizona in a string of audacious heists, resulting in the theft of more than $2 million worth of new Nike sneakers. During a January 13th robbery in Perrin, Arizona, suspects cut an air brake hose on a BNSF freight train and made off with more than 1,900 pairs of unreleased Nikes worth more than $440,000. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a walk-up with central air and a skylight, and you found it. Now, every Friday night, you get to fall asleep to the sound of your downstairs neighbors' dance parties. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
There's something you should know and always remember. SportsGrid does not increase luck. We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck, go find a horseshoe. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Small little technical blip right there, but we are back live right here on Football Full Circle. It is FFC. He is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. Again, Joe, as we discussed in the opening segment, Combine Week, not just about the prospects, but all of the tastemakers around the NFL. It brings us headlines because we get to hear from coaches, from GMs, from front office execs all around the NFL who are in Indianapolis to evaluate and scout the next generation of talent in the National Football League. Joe, some big news yesterday. It came out early in the afternoon. An unidentified NFL organization presented to the NFL Competition Committee a ban to be put in place for the tush push, known as the brotherly shove. However you identify it, they don't want the tush push a thing in the NFL anymore. And then later in the afternoon, that unnamed NFL club was named the Green Bay Packers, presenting the rule or the change of said rule to the NFL's competition committee. Joe, we'll talk about Green Bay in just a moment. Let's start with the actual tush push itself. Do you believe it should be banned? Do you think it will be banned this offseason?
I don't think it should be banned, and I don't think it will be banned. It's football, and everybody's for better protection of the players. Everybody wants to see, but again, that's like taking a quarterback sneak out of the game. I mean, I don't understand what the big deal is. I understand that both players, like Philly does it better than everybody, where they get, about 700 pounds of weight behind Jalen Hurts. But at the end of the day, you still have to be able to stop a quarterback sneak. And that's part of football. And taking that out of the game just because it's highly successful, I don't know what we're doing. It's not making or breaking the reason why the Philadelphia Eagles dominated the Super Bowl. Let's call it what it is. If you're in a third or a 4th and 1 or 4th and short type of situation, that's on you. That's not on the Eagles, their ability to go for a tush push. I think it's cheap. I think it's just like we're getting really over the top, and Green Bay's ridiculous, and how other coaches are coming out, like Sean McDermott said it's an injury issue. You have a 6'5", 6'6" quarterback. Josh Allen should be doing that every 4th and 1. I don't understand.
It's an issue for Buffalo because they haven't been able to perfect it, and it nearly cost them in the AFC Championship game against Kansas City. In fact, you could argue it did because they tried to run a variation of the tush push, but Josh Allen got too high and Kansas City stuffed him, and so it was that questionable spot that was ruled against the Buffalo Bills. When you leave it up to interpretation, those types of things can happen. Joe, I don't think the rule is going to be changed. Frankly, I don't think it should be changed. You might not like the play, but that doesn't mean it needs to go to the competition committee just because the Eagles have found an advantage. Everybody is welcome to run the tush push. Everybody can have it at their disposal if they would care to do so. And everybody schematically can try to plan a way to stop it. One of the best ways, keeping Philadelphia out of 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. But one of the reasons, Joe, that it works so well for the Birds, year in, year out, the Eagles have had a great offensive line. Stoutland University, Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach for Philadelphia. They have continued that success year over year. And you also have Jalen Hurts, a quarterback who can squat 600 pounds so that he gets that leverage and drive to move the sticks. The Eagles themselves might try to present the rule to be changed to the competition committee because they don't like running it. It's not a very fun play. You got to get in a rugby scrum, mate, and really make sure that you drive to pick up a new set of downs. But, Joe, in terms of teams trying to present it as opposition, not going to happen probably this offseason, even if there is an overwhelming majority. In the idea of it being a play that garners more injuries, there's really no data that says that to this point. It's not like NFL kickoffs, which had to be changed, one, to try to bring the play back into the sport, but also the most dangerous play in football. So to echo what Joe said, no, I do not believe the play should nor will be changed at any point this offseason.
Yeah, and again, it's part of the game. Quarterback sneak, you want to see it. It's a part of Philadelphia. They developed it and designed it and perfected it better than anybody. Yeah. And again, it's up to other teams to evolve and find other ways to either potentially challenge that or come up with a way to get the quarterback sneak, 1 yard on your end. It's so cheap. It's like ticky-tacky. It's like, we're NFL players. You're talking about elite talent on both sides of the ball, and we're complaining about one thing that people are successful at. And again, it's not like they're doing it illegally. It's not an illegal part of the game. So I don't understand what the problem is.
The NFL is a game of inches, right? And it might sound a little bit contrite to say, well, don't let them get to 4th and inches or 3rd and short to run the play. but every inch counts, every foot counts, every yard counts in the NFL. So that would be how defensive coordinators push back on that idea. But just try to scheme something up to not allow them to move down the field, to not be in those advantage where it's goal to go, where it's fourth inch short to go. That's really what we're coming down to. Try to find something to stop it schematically, which still, it's pretty young, Joe, in terms of how often it has been used. Really just 3 years in terms of the overwhelming majority for Philadelphia and other teams trying to replicate it. DC's this offseason will try to figure out a way to stop it. We saw the Commanders try to jump off sides and time the snap in that NFC Championship game. That did not seem to be a successful one. But from a betting perspective, I also find it very interesting, Joe, because if there was another player who should have issue with it, it's Saquon Barkley, a guy that can't hit pay dirt nearly as often because many other teams would just hand him the football on 4th and goal from the 1 yard line, and he would score. Jalen Hurts' price, oftentimes, at least this past year early on, was not truly indicative of his anytime touchdown number because of the brotherly shove, because of the tush push. So it's also important from that detail as well.
It is. Again, Jalen Hurts hit pay dirt, but when you have Saquon Barkley back there, I mean, you hand him the football and he gets the yard, no problem. So
yeah,
they have a very nice problem to have in 25 coming up. So
cash that first touchdown score of Super Bowl 59 for me. Hurts into the end zone. More FFC up next.
There's smart
and there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
Come here, champ. I'm the greatest thing that ever lived.
1964, Muhammad Ali, despite being an 8-1 underdog, wins his first heavyweight boxing title when Sonny Liston fails to come out for the 7th round.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old.
In the rematch in 1965, Ali KO'd Liston in the first round. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
Researchers at Leipzig University have discovered that fruit flies, just like more sophisticated creatures, sometimes like to play. By building a bug-sized carousel 1/2 inch tall inside a glass biosphere containing almost 200 common fruit flies, filmed and tracked by image recognition software for 2 weeks. Some fruit flies terrified by the carousel, but many took the ride multiple times. The goal, not insect amusement parks, but understanding neural and biochemical traits for insect control. However, no word if fruit flies like roller coasters. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
Some people might be looking at the top of that landscape like Abdul Carter plus 175 over Travis Hunter. Have you seen the man wreck absolute game plans here from a defensive end a la Micah Parsons heading into the NFL? I love Abdul Carter, man. Whoever gets him, watch out.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere, even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. Quarterback news from NFL Combine Week in Indianapolis. Joe, yesterday we talked about Matthew Stafford in the rumors toward the tail end of the show. Seemingly some kind of disconnect between LA's front office and their veteran quarterback who just completed his 16th NFL season at the tender age of 37. A report yesterday from Peter Schrager, who works for NFL Network and Fox Sports, claiming that Matthew Stafford and his representation want to be paid in the annual average value of $50 million per year at bare minimum. Stafford signed a contract extension in Los Angeles after winning a Super Bowl, entering the 2022 NFL season, 4-year, $160 million deal. But of course, Joe, from that point in the 2022 offseason, really the following two off seasons, we have seen the quarterback dollar inflate to the nth degree. So 50 mil is not even all that much to ask for at this stage of being an NFL quarterback. That is reportedly what Stafford wants. And the Rams have given Stafford and his agents some leeway to try to see what his value might be around the National Football League. So 50 mil, Joe, seems to be the Stafford asking price that he wants the Rams to cough up.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right? Brock Purdy is in the area of 63 to 65. So he's trying to get 13 million discount. Daniel Jones is 40 million, right? A few years ago. So he's right in the middle, and he won a Super Bowl, and both of those quarterbacks have it. You know, you talk about Jalen Hurts, he's 55 million a year, just won his first Super Bowl, right? Burrow's in the area of 53. I mean, Stafford still believes he could play at an elite level. The problem's going to be what team is going to pay 50 million, you know, to have basically a quarterback, unless he's not the cherry on top like he was a few years ago with LA. Right now, the teams that are going to pay him are absolutely atrocious. I mean, is Cleveland going to pay him $50 million after giving Deshaun Watson $281? Is Tennessee going to do it? Is Las Vegas going to do it? Or the Giants? You know, I think the only, and I've heard a couple of people talk about it. I heard Donnie talk about it too with Kevin. Yeah. You know, why would Stafford go, or why would the Giants, you know, take Stafford? They would take Stafford because Dable needs to win, right? So if he can convince, you know, the organization, this is my guy, and we'll get to 9 or 10 wins, and we could still take a quarterback, you know, later in the draft. That's his only way out. Otherwise, Brian Dable's one and done. So that would be the only reason why the Giants take a shot at Stafford, and if Stafford wants to be there, because they feel they can compete, right?
Yeah, no doubt. The Giants would have to trade what seems like a lot for him. They would focus on the quarterback room and trying to build it that way. In fact, we heard from Joe Shane not all that long ago in Indy. I'll give you that quote in just a moment. But, Joe, when you think about $50 million, 9 quarterbacks in the NFL as of this moment, on annual average salary, make at least $50 million. There's a lot of ways to skin the cat. It's guaranteed money, that's annual base salary, that's cap hit, that's signing bonus, all of that stuff. Just when you see the report, insert X player signs a 4-year deal for $200 million. Basically, you average it out to $50 mil per year. It is the easiest way to digest it and discuss it. It's not necessarily like, boom, $50 million on the books for NFL front offices. Matthew Stafford at the moment, 15th highest paid quarterback in the NFL at $40 mil per year. So he is hoping for that raise. I think, Joe, there is no doubt Matthew Stafford is worthy of being a top 10 paid quarterback in the NFL, but I'm sure a part of the conversation for the Rams is this guy's 37, right? How do we structure this contract? How do we try to front load it so that if we have one, maybe at most 2 more years with Matthew Stafford, we don't set the franchise back? I don't think it's a matter of, Joe, him not being worth the money. It's a matter of, does this money, in all of it right now, this lump sum, make sense at this stage of his career?
Right. No, I agree 100%. Plus, you always have to worry about injury, right? Can he hold up? Look at Aaron Rodgers, the $50 million man. You know, it looked like great pastures and great success at the start of the New York Jets. He steps out onto the field a couple years ago and tears the Achilles. Look at Kirk Cousins. You know, same thing 2 years ago. So, yeah, age is a factor. You always have to worry. But I think one team will take a shot on Matt Stafford, especially when you see some of these other garbage quarterbacks getting high money and not producing.
And it still should be the Rams. We'll talk more about this up next on Football Full Circle.
The winning edge. You've got it. But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us. But we're working on that. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The NBA season resumes tonight following the All-Star break. One game on the schedule. The Hornets visit the Lakers. The game was rescheduled from January the 9th. When it was called off due to the LA wildfires. The Hornets have lost 3 in a row in 9 of their last 10. The Lakers, meanwhile, have wins in 8 of 10. LeBron James is questionable for the game tonight. He sat out the All-Star game for the first time in his 20-year career due to an ankle injury. Men's top 25 hoops last night. Number 5, Houston beat Arizona State 80-65. Number 19, Marquette 80-56 winners at home over Seton Hall. Number 2, Florida beat Oklahoma 85-63. Number 21, Mississippi State 70-54 winners over number 7, Texas A&M. Number 8, Iowa State 79-65 over Colorado. TCU upset number 9, Texas Tech 69-66. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with MyLowe's Rewards. Earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce.
It's Spruce, the new hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets. When used as directed, spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Weeds die by the next day. Find Spruce wherever weed killers are sold.
You're listening to Sports Grid, spreading the winning edge far and wide. Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app. Face it, the winning edge is everywhere. Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
So the Matthew Stafford situation is intriguing. I still think at the end of the day, the Rams and Stafford will come to an agreement and Matthew will be back for year number 5 in LA, knowing how optimistic the future should be at the tail end of his NFL career with this Los Angeles side. 4 years in LA, a Lombardi Trophy, and 3 playoff appearances in that span. But Joe, of course, with the New York Giants and the rumors floating in Chad Hall, that being Matthew Stafford's brother-in-law, his wife Kelly Stafford's brother, signing with the Giants this offseason as the assistant quarterback coach, Joe Schoen, Giants GM in Indianapolis this week, and was just at the podium not all that long ago, saying even if the team drafts a quarterback, the Giants will want a veteran in the room to show him the ropes. Of course, that's going to lead to some speculation that maybe Matthew Stafford would be that veteran. However, I don't believe the Giants at pick number 3, if they acquire Stafford, are going to stay there, would have that pick, or if they do, would draft a quarterback.
No, they're not going to be at 3 if Stafford comes on board. Having a veteran quarterback means taking a quarterback of that caliber to sit and wait probably in the 3rd or 4th round. Would it be, a Jalen Milroe? I'm just throwing names out there. Riley Leonard, Jackson Dart, if he falls, that's a different type of look. But if they get Matt Stafford, they are all in, just the way the New York Jets were last year and the last 2 years with Aaron Rodgers, just the way Atlanta was with Kirk Cousins. It's win now or bust. So they better be dead on in terms of their assessment about how they want to take on success over the next couple of years, how they want to attack this draft, and that changes the whole mindset. You go from a complete rebuild, which we think they're in, to all of a sudden now, okay, we got a Super Bowl winning quarterback on the back nine. How can we at least get back to the playoffs and compete with the likes of Washington, Dallas, and Philadelphia? That's a whole different type of philosophy than what they are here at the end of February.
Well said, Joe. I think it's a really good point because when you think of Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, are they going to see another season in New York if this one is also a failure. It is about to be year number 4 of this partnership, the tandem that came over from Buffalo, the GM in Shane, the head coach in Daboll. There is a thought that they're already on very warm seats, that if this year is bad, they go 3-14, they end up with a top 3 pick, they'll be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes. Boom. See you later, Shane and Daboll. We start from the ground up. We get our quarterback of the future. We've got a new head coach and general manager in place. Again, there's no guarantee that happened. The Giants were supposed to have that happen this year, and they won a game as a touchdown underdog at home against the Colts, who still at the time were in playoff consideration. All to say, Joe, you just don't know. But I think what you said there is spot on. That Joe Shane and Brian Daboll better have a plan right here, right now, how they want to attack the offseason. Are they going to look to trade up because they are infatuated with either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, knowing the Titans are going to listen to calls about that number 1 overall pick? Are they going to look to a guy like a Sam Darnold in free agency? Would they try to make a deal for a Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, or are they going to play the year out, knowing that it might cost them jobs if they don't make a change or a big-time swing at the quarterback spot? We shall see. Again, I don't think it makes a ton of sense, personally, for Matthew Stafford to leave L.A. I don't think it makes sense for the Rams. I'm not even sure it makes a lot of sense for the Giants, Joe. But we are in this kind of posturing position at this moment where it seems like it should be rather cut and dry. You just made it to the playoffs. You got to the divisional round. You were a couple of plays away from beating the eventual Super Bowl champs and hosting the NFC Championship game with a young core, both offensively and defensively, that is only going to get better and improve. And here we are talking about the future of your quarterback. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, and here's the thing. They were both seasons 10-7. They lost to Detroit last year by 2 years ago in the season, 24-23 in the playoffs. And then last year they lose, in terms of round 1. We get that to Philadelphia. But when you look at it, and you just look at where they are built, defensively, they got much younger. Offensively, they're going to get rid of Kupp. They have Puka and Kyron Williams there. They're built to win now. If Matt Stafford leaves, okay, I understand he wants 50 a year, but doesn't he want to go to a contender? You're going to be expected, if you go to the Giants, to be like the savior, because there's nobody else outside of Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy. So, I mean, again, you're getting your money, but you're not getting anything else. So we'll see. Again, it has to be the mindset. What does Matt Stafford want? And the Rams, what is their mindset? Because, again, you can't allow him to walk out the door and not have any type of contingency plan as a backup.
Absolutely so. You need to have something ready to go. And for the Rams, Joe, it's not the veteran in Jimmy Garoppolo. It's certainly not Stetson Bennett at this point. There needs to be a lot that is decided. And again, it would seem the thing that is crystal clear is pay Matthew Stafford, agree to a deal that makes sense for both parties, and take it from there. Still believe that will be the ultimate conclusion in LA this offseason, but we shall see. Speaking of veteran quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, who, of course, was paid this previous offseason, by the Falcons, 4-year, $180 million deal with $100 million guaranteed. And then Atlanta drafted Michael Penix Jr. 8th overall. And then Kirk Cousins, coming back off a ruptured Achilles, struggled at the age of 36 years old. He was benched for Michael Penix Jr. in the final month of the season. The Falcons missed out on the playoffs, but it is clear this is now Penix's team in Atlanta. Terry Fontenot, the GM for the Atlanta Falcons, speaking today in Indy, indicated that Kirk Cousins will remain with the team for the foreseeable future. Nothing drastically happening, and indicating, Joe, that the Falcons are aware of the money that Kirk Cousins is owed. It would need to be paid and what it would do to their salary cap, and they're comfortable with the finances behind that decision at this moment.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it's a crazy situation. He also came out and said he wasn't aware that Kirk Cousins was hurt at the end of last year, and, he had no knowledge of it.
Hold on a second. He said that?
Yeah,
today?
ESPN, go to ESPN report. Yeah, Fontenot said right here.
Oh, my
Falcons
goodness.
Unaware of Kirk.
He was on
Falcons
the injury
GM
report heading
coach.
into the Denver game.
Yep. Yeah. There you go. Just saying. So, like, you tell me what Terry Fontenot's doing. You're the GM. You're Raheem Morris. You're the organization. You have no idea your starting quarterback is hurt, or you're playing stupid, and that's why you moved on from him and went to Michael Penix, because there was a situation and that gave you the best opportunity to win. Something's not copacetic there, especially when you think about injury reports and how they affect the betting markets, right? So you tell me what this situation tells you. Something is going on within the Falcons organization, and the fact that they're keeping Kirk Cousins on the roster, something, again, that they don't have a vision. They're flying by the seat of their pants, because that move at the end of last year should have been for Michael Penix to start year number 2 and be the face of the franchise. Keeping Kirk Cousins on the roster is an absolute joke and a disservice to a young quarterback that's going to be looking over his shoulder now at the first time he struggles. What is going on?
It has never made sense in how they have handled now this quarterback roulette in the last 2 off seasons. To pay Kirk Cousins, to draft Michael Penix Jr., because you feel as though you won't be up there to draft a quarterback of the future at any particular point. None of this situation made sense, because either you owe Kirk Cousins a ton of money to be a glorified backup, which seems to be the case right now, or Kirk Cousins is great and you never know if Michael Penix Jr. is going to play. And if you're not contending for conference championships, or let alone making the postseason, then none of it matters. We'll talk more about this story up next, and another veteran that might be on the move on the defensive side of the ball. All of that next on Football Full Circle.
We're not saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie. Just saying. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. A lawsuit filed by 17 states challenging federal rules entitling workers to time off and other accommodations for abortions may proceed, according to a federal appeals court. The 8th Circuit Court's decision on Thursday reverses Eastern District of Arkansas U.S. District Judge D.P. Marshall Jr.'s dismissal of the case in June after he found that the states lacked standing to sue. The 17 states sued the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in April, challenging its rules on how to implement the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, a 2022 law requiring employers to make reasonable accommodations for pregnant or postpartum employees. Thieves have targeted freight trains running through the deserts of California and Arizona in a string of audacious heists, resulting in the theft of more than $2 million worth of new Nike sneakers. During a January 13th robbery in Perrin, Arizona, suspects cut an air brake hose on a BNSF freight train and made off with more than 1,900 pairs of unreleased Nikes worth more than $440,000. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important. That's where we come in. SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning more often. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. So, as we break down what Terry Fontenot, the GM of the Atlanta Falcons, said today about his now backup quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Step number 1, the Falcons are comfortable paying Kirk a ton of money to just be the backup behind Michael Penix Jr., which step number 2 puts the idea that Cousins could be dealt or even perhaps cut at a point this offseason a little bit up in the air. Kirk Cousins is not a free agent. It should be noted in terms of this quarterback class that could be moved around this offseason. Step number 3. Terry Fontenot was asked today in Indianapolis at the scouting combine about some comments that Kirk Cousins made on NFL Network during Super Bowl week, mentioning how that in week number 10, he got hit pretty bad in a game against the Saints. His right arm and right shoulder took the brunt of it, never fully recovered to where he wanted it to be the remainder of this season. The Falcons put Kirk Cousins on the injury report for their Week 11 game, entering a matchup against the Denver Broncos for just one day. He was off the injury report. That was that. Fontenot was asked about that today, Joe, and said, "We were not aware of any other injury except that one day he was placed on one entering Week 11. Seems to be a disconnect between the backup QB and the front office / head coach. But if we are to believe Kirk, maybe it's not just an excuse. Those final 5 games he played, starting with the one against New Orleans in week number 10, he threw 9 interceptions, at least 1 pick in all 5 games, to only 1 touchdown. And then after beating the Raiders, of course, was benched in favor of Michael Penix Jr. starting in week number 16.
Yeah, I mean, was he injured? It's possible. I find it very hard to believe that he was injured and the team didn't know. I mean, that's the biggest thing because, if he had a bad performance like he had against Las Vegas and like he's had down the stretch, you talk about that Denver game. He got sacked earlier and often. They put up 6 points. He couldn't move the football past midfield. You're telling me the training staff or he didn't, complain about arm soreness or any type of, arm issue at all? Why was he on the injury report? And then when, then they monitored it and examined it, all of a sudden he was taken off. So there's a disconnect. Either Kirk's lying or they're lying saying that they weren't aware. But it does seem like there was an issue because then why'd you go to Michael Penix with the season on the line after they beat Las Vegas and he still won that game, right? Yeah. So that doesn't make sense. So again, I don't know. All I know is that this team's a mess. It starts at the top. I don't think Raheem Morris is a very good coach. I think they're just a middling 500 team with or without Kirk Cousins. And again, we'll see how this season does play out for them. But right now they have a bunch of stars, but they don't play it like a team, and that's a problem.
Cousins under contract through the 2027 season. So if he were released even after the league year or June 1st really comes around, Falcons are still on the hook for a $40 million cap hit. 14% of the salary cap in one guy, in Kirk Cousins, who is the backup quarterback. Even if he is traded, Joe, there's not much of a relief, I should say. $37.5 million worth of a cap hit if he is dealt post June 1st. Not a good scenario for the Falcons, which again is why the decision to draft Michael Penix Jr. after acquiring Kirk Cousins made absolutely zero sense. It better result in wins, in divisional championships and playoff spots to ease that financial burden. Jonathan Allen, longtime pass rusher for the Washington Commanders, one of the staples of the D-line outside the nation's capital for the last decade, basically. He was drafted in the first round in 2017 by Washington, has been with this Washington organization all 8 NFL seasons, has been given permission for he and his representation to seek a trade. He is still under contract through the end of this upcoming year, but the Commanders, after maybe reworking some things defensively, have given Jonathan Allen permission to seek a deal.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great performer for the team that underachieved, and they stepped up this year. But he's at the back 9, let's be honest. When you have a D tackle, D lineman, even though he may be still productive, but he's still taking a wear and tear on the body. And at the end of the day, you try to get value for those type of players and solidify the roster. They have younger players on the roster that could step up and produce. And why not get some value for them and move on? That's the issue. I don't think Jonathan Allen on the Commanders will say, wow, they're now an NFC championship contender. You take him off there, you get a younger guy, or you get players that fit the salary cap and fit your needs, you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk about the interior of that D-line for just a moment in a second. But, Joe, to your point, this year, Jonathan Allen only starting 7 games, playing in 8, was a Pro Bowler in both 2021 and 2022. Played a ton last year, just not as productive as his Pro Bowl years. When you look at this Washington team, though, when you have seen what they have done in the interior, Joe, of their defensive line, 2 guys that have played together for a very long time, and Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, both from Alabama, that being the college that is Alabama, played together collegiately, drafted by Washington, have really played together along the interior of that D-line, basically for the entirety of their NFL careers. There is no doubt, though, Joe, if the Commanders want to take that next step, right, and the next step would be win a conference championship, but at least just to be a consistent contending team for years to come, the defense has to be better. Jaden Daniels was sensational. The offense was great. The defense needs to continue to work under the defensive-minded head coach in Dan Quinn.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're right. You hit the nail on the head with the assessment of the Washington Commanders. I mean, they have multiple needs that they could still address in terms of the draft and the offseason. They need a pure number 2. They need some secondary wide receiver help. And on the defensive side of the ball, they need some younger linebackers, I believe, and some younger D tackles. So, again, we'll see what they do in terms of the draft.
The old Spiz Grizz is used in the studio for some interviews. So Joe Lisi takes you home on the other side of the break. Lisi guy, talk to you tomorrow. Back on FFC up next.
Can't wait.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern. And Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi. Then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. Ben will be back with us tomorrow. I just want to touch on a couple of things for the upcoming Combine. A couple of players to keep an eye out on when you just look at players at the next level. Mason Taylor from LSU. We talk about these hybrid type of tight ends. Mason Taylor stepped up throughout the regular season. He's going to be a player maybe on day 2, day 3 that can make an NFL roster. We saw tight ends step up this year early and often. Mason Taylor, great hands, great route running ability. Keep an eye out for him. And then Taj Brooks for Texas Tech. He's a running back that you have to keep an eye out on. And when you just look at the next level, he's short but very stocky, can catch the football, yards after contact. Taj Brooks was the best player on Texas Tech's team, led all FBS in terms of yards after contact. He's going to be a player in potentially the 3rd, 4th round that I think can make an NFL roster and really hit the ground running. Other running backs, it's a very deep NFL class as it relates to the running backs. You have Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Junkins from Ohio State. Those are 2 running backs to keep an eye on. They stepped up throughout the semifinal playoff run to a national championship. They both have the pedigree to catch the football out of the backfield, elusive, probably will run much better 40s than what's expected. Do want to just talk about the number 1 overall pick, that market. Cam Ward right now, minus 160. Abdul Carter on the move, plus 185. And Travis Hunter at plus 750 with Shedeur Sanders at 9-1. When you look at the breakdown, Abdul Carter is very interesting because we saw what happened as it relates to the Super Bowl. Dominant front 7 that pressured Pat Mahomes early and often. When they sacked him 6 times, teams might look at that and say, you know what, instead of going offense, when you have a disruptor, a force coming off the edge, like an Abdul Carter, like a Micah Parsons, same team in Penn State, that dominant edge rusher, Myles Garrett, that could potentially really elevate your defense to where you are a contender. It could change a team's type of approach, going from maybe a young rookie quarterback to then a veteran bridge gap quarterback and solidifying the defense. It is a copycat league. We've seen this throughout the NFL. Teams going back to the rushing attack, teams going more to a dominant rushing game. You talk about Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, the push potentially for running back RB1s. But knowing what Philadelphia did on the defensive side of the ball over the past couple of seasons, there might be an appetite, and the market's obviously telling you that, with Abdul Carter, number 2, right behind a Cam Ward, he has the potential to maybe steal the spotlight if a team does trade out like Tennessee and get value for that type of selection. Abdul Carter can be a game changer at the defensive end / linebacker position. He's that dominant. He's still lean. He can add another 10 to 15 pounds of muscle and not lose a step. So there will be players that elevate over the next couple of weeks throughout the combine. You know, outside the top 3 or 4, Travis Hunter's another one. We talk about his dual threat ability. How do teams view Travis Hunter at the next level? Do they view him strictly as a quarterback? Do they view him strictly as an elite wide receiver? Or are they going to look to utilize both packages? That's something that we haven't seen back in the days in terms of Deion, Charles Woodson, and some of those great defensive backs, both Hall of Famers. That's what you're getting in terms of Travis Hunter. So we'll see how this plays out over the next month and a half, from the combine straight through the NFL draft. When you're looking at the quarterbacks, Jackson Dart is interesting. A lot of teams have mentioned he could be the player that elevates his stock the most. I'll just say this about Jackson Dart. Great stats, great dual threat ability. Big games, struggled a little bit. And that's the biggest thing, I think, when you look at the transition from the college game to the next level. You look at against above average defenses. He struggled on the road this year against LSU and Baton Rouge. They sacked him multiple times. The quarterback pressures, the forced throws into double coverage. That's something you can't do on the next level. And you look at the game against a very young, athletic Florida defense. That was an opportunity for Ole Miss to capture a college football playoff appearance. Throws 2 critical interceptions that cost his team the game. Those are what you look at, I think, when you're breaking down a top 5 or a top 10 quarterback. We'll see how this combine plays out. Ben and I will break down all the stats tomorrow on Football Full Circle. For Ben Stevens, I'm Lisi. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.